Hey, hello. So, today I really have a rant, about nationalism, and it's not necessarily the one you think. So, like, nationalism is complicated. It's actually a lot more complicated than you think. So, like, obviously everyone knows about white nationalism, and white nationalism is bad. I'm never going to argue for white nationalism because it's atrocious, and it's the sort of attitude that would, if I were living in a more white nationalist society, um I would be increasing my chance of death. And I have some self-preservation instinct in me. I look really pale with this. Wait, hold on, let me just... Is it the... I don't have good lighting here at the moment. Turn that back on. Most possible. Whatever. I don't know. I can't do anything about the lighting. I am way too pale. I don't. Normally I would have top lighting, but my lights are out. So we all know most people know that white nationalism is bad. It's under the assumption of creating an ideal version of what it means to be a human. And, well, with white nationalists, it's white people, white men, especially, being like the main type people who are supposed to be human. Or who are considered to be the ideal human. However, there is other types of nationalism, and that should not be conflated, because there's a big difference between white nationalists and black nationalists. And let's say a certain left-wing streamer doesn't seem to understand this very, very basic concept that would involve listening to black people even the slightest bit, or disabled people, technically, for that matter, because of the ADA and how the ADA was passed. Because the Black Panther Party in the 60s helped get the ADA passed. Like, the Black Panther Party in the 60s helped a bunch of majority white disabled people in a protest against discrimination. Like, and you might be asking if you have already made the conflation between white nationalists and black nationalists. You might be like, what's the difference? But, like, that doesn't make sense. Well, there's a very simple reason. White nationalism, like I said, is about creating an ideal version of human, that ideal being a white man. That said, white women, by the way, are tools to create more white men in the white nationalist. Yeah, rhymes with posh, dude. Yes. Rhymes with posh. Anyways, so the whole reasoning behind white nationalists is, yes, to create a bunch of white dudes. Now, black nationalism, I think, is summed up, and I can't play because I think Key and Peele skits are most likely to get copyright struck, from my understanding. But it's essentially, black nationalism is essentially summed up in a very good Key and Peele skit where a black dude enters a city and doesn't receive all the discrimination that black people receive on a daily basis, all the microaggressions, all the various prejudices by police officers, all that stuff, just not there. That is essentially the thought process of black nationalism. Now, there are problems with black nationalism. I'm not trying to say that black nationalism is perfect by any means. I think the separation will create a bunch of different problems. I think integration is more integration is generally better for everyone, part of intersectionality. But like, so but black nationalism is very much founded on the principle of, I don't want to receive all the hate and discrimination that I receive. It's like, if I was living in an area completely controlled by trans people, I probably wouldn't receive the sorts of you know, aggressively being called sir or any other such stuff. You know, I think that's just overall making it worse. I'm just gonna turn that off. But like the yeah, it's just a trying to escape oppression is different from trying to be the most powerful being or whatever in your thought processes. It's sort of like the difference between utilitarianism and negative utilitarianism. Utilitarianism is about people having a certain amount of joy. Negative utilitarianism is about removing as much suffering as possible. That's sort of the level of difference between white nationalism and black nationalism. Now, some people already understood there's a difference. Once again, I will thank Zanzi, but like Irish nationalism is about trying to use nationalism for the purpose of bringing people together to make change. So it's the thought process that James Connolly seemed to have in 1897 when this is written. It's relatively short. I could probably read it and sum it up. So the public life in Ireland has been generally so much identified with the struggle for political emancipation that naturally the economic side of the situation has only received from our historians and public men a very small amount of attention. Scientific socialism, I actually, been a while since I've read this. Scientific socialism is based upon truth incorporated in this proposition by Karl Marx that economic dependence of the workers on the monopolists of the means of productions is a foundation of slavery in all its forms, the cause of nearly all social misery, violent crime, mental degradation, and political dependence. Now, that is, it's one of those things where not all people are perfect. This is 1897. I disagree. This would generally be put as a reductionist type talking point, because I think it doesn't address a larger social instance that also factors in to the hierarchical structure. But anyways, thus this false exaggeration of purely political forms, which has clothed in Ireland, the struggle for liberty must appear in the socialist an inexplicable error on the part of people so strongly crushed down as the Irish. But the error is more apparent than in reality. The reactionary attitude of our political leaders notwithstanding. Wow, reactionary attitude of political leaders. This is 1897. Still the case. And not just political leaders, many political commentators as well. Some, at least one of whom rhymes with posh. Anyways, the great mass of the Irish people know full well that if they had once conquered that political liberty which they struggle for with so much ardor, it would have been used as a means of social redemption before their well-being would be assured. I'm not quite sure what is being meant by this. This is one of those things. It is still 1897. And oftentimes, the more educated people are the people who wrote this, so it is written in that way. In spite of occasional exaggeration and the immediate results, one must remember that striving determinedly they have done towards this definite political end, the Irish are working on the lines of conduct laid down by modern socialism as the indispensable condition of success. Okay, this is way more wordy than I thought. But basically there's a bunch of wordy stuff. But it's essentially under the assumption that you need the power to make change before you can make change. Which is the reason for, because Irish people were seen as second-class citizens for quite a long period of time. And, well, still are to some degree in England, although there are people viewed below that of the Irish, or any Gaelic. There's a very anti-Gaelic attitude, from my understanding. That's why the anti-red hair thing. But it's about utilizing the idea of people want to feel like they can make change. And if things are done too separately from the actual reality of the world, it's very easy for people to still feel powerless. So, some nationalist groups try to address this by trying to give people power. Now, the level of hierarchy often depends on the nationalist group. White nationalists are very hierarchical. And oftentimes they exploit poor white people to try to be like, well, the only way you're going to have actual power is if you kick down anyone who's not a white man. And that, once again, abhorrent as hell, and awful, but like, I can understand why, in general, people want, on an emotional level, people want to have a place that they can feel safe, and they want the power to make that place in which they feel safe. Which is part of why Black nationalism and Irish nationalism exist. Now, if you don't get rid of those hierarchical structures, then you're doing a disservice to things, and far too many left-wing people. So, like, there are people, I mean, the right does it very openly, but there are people who are far too much in favor of a variety of types of eugenics, and some aren't even aware of how much that's happening and how much support eugenics has, so long as you find the right people. So, like, if you're in the grand scheme of a lot of societies, including American society, well, especially American society. Well, I'm most familiar with the hierarchical structure of American society. That's what I should say. Although I have seen eugenics with, and I am very much aware of eugenics related stuff in Canada, as well as the United States. I just talked with fantastic Mr. Fox on my channel, and also on my other channel, the Fluid Voice, along with on my news show. I briefly brought up the disability eugenics in Canada, which there's a lot, but there's also been that in the United States. I mean, there are certain people in which they don't want them having children because there has been a hierarchical value, and the more you can get done for either corporations or society as a whole or any of that stuff, the more you can get done for all that, the more value you're perceived as having. Now, I have not. I personally have not escaped that myself in terms of attitude towards myself, largely. I have a different standard for myself versus other people. Other people, it's like, yeah, you should take care of yourself and do what you can. And then with me, I'm just like, no, I'm not doing anywhere near enough for society. I'm aware that I have some privilege. Which I do, because, like, I'm white. My parents are middle class. I have a lot of middle class friends. So, like, that stuff adds up. But at the same time, there's also a lot of things working against that. The least of which is that I'm Jewish. I have numerous psychological diagnoses. I'm trans. I am very much not straight. I am the opposite of straight. But it's so all that stuff works against me societally, and I'm not going to be able to directly understand things. All I can do is listen for a lot of things. Some stuff I understand. I understand the concept of discrimination because I have been discriminated against. But it's not the same. Hey. Hi, I'm talking about the variety of nationalism, but also I think I've branched off somewhat to hierarchical structures because that is an aspect of that. But I can only understand so much. And I just realized how messy my hair is. No. But it's something that bringing people together doesn't necessarily get rid of. Like, I am not. I do not believe in reductionism. But also, like I said, I'm very aware that different types of nationalism are have different main goals. Like I said, the difference between Irish nationalism, white nationalism, and black nationalism. Now, black separatism also has different goals. But the word national generally means people wanting to get together or whatever to some degree. Yeah, frack hierarchy. Yes, that is true. And like I said, white nationalism, very bad. I cannot stress this enough. White nationalism is very bad. In fact, there's a thing in I can't remember if you sent me it as well, but I woke up and read a thing about Wisconsin, the white nationalists, potential white nationalists in the police force, not working with the general populace. Or not working with, that's not what I mean. The white nationalists in the police force, not charging what appears to be the violence perpetuated by a gang of white nationalists. Not you not saying that's not a gang crime when there's like 20 people involved. 20 white nationals involved. All of a sudden the police don't call it a gang crime. Which that's its own thing. That's its own very upsetting thing. But I think, like, if there was a much similar to black nationalist groups, if there is a disabled nationalist group, which I'm not aware of there being one, but if that were the case, it would be to avoid discrimination. But they never physically. Oh yeah. Oh god. Yeah. But the. The. I lost my train of thought there. Oh yeah, if there's a disabled nationalist group, it would largely be to try to create a society that's significantly more accessible. They know, yeah. It would be to create a society that's significantly more accessible and whatnot, and without the discrimination of disabled people being considered lesser. Why is chat box doubling? I'll have to figure that out sometime. Oh wait. Do I have two chat boxes? Is that why? Haha. Problem solved. Okay. That was just bothering me as soon as I noticed it on my screen. But like, and I mean, I guess we can get into the white nationalism a bit more. It is perpetuated far too much of society, and people who are white nationalists are just louder. Like, the general populace, I think, has an attitude of is slowly more and more seeing um, uh, black people, disabled people, less with disabled people, but black people, LGBTQ people as human beings, and not as well. Disabled people oftentimes get seen as absolutely worthless and helpless. That's the general discrimination against disabled people, which is its own problem. If you're not worthless and helpless, then you must be either faking it or secretly a villain. Those two things. Because they can't have a disabled person not be worthless and helpless. That's another story. That's less to do with the general annoying and less annoying attitudes with regards to nationalism. But the streamer who runs with Posh, I am still, and I woke up one day on Friday and I was just like extra salty about his attitude, because it's very. I'm turning the light back on because it looks like it's starting to get a little bit darker. But his attitude is very black nationalists and white nationalists are the same, which is very not the case, as I've explained earlier. So I'm getting a little bit repetitive there, but now that's not to say the Black Panther Party now is particularly great. I've not heard. I don't know the history of it now, but like even separate like black movements, LGBTQ movements, and disability movements don't form intersectionality. It's very much there's a real problem with groups being like, okay, my problems, let's deal with my problems first. Yeah, his take sucks, yes. But yes, a lot of groups have an attitude like, my problem needs to be dealt with first because it affects me, and your problem can be dealt with after that. And that's not how things, you can't motivate people that way. That's not going to happen. If people are like, my friends are dying, and I need to fight for this policy so I don't die, they're not going to stop fighting just to fight for your thing. You need to fight for all of humanity getting the acceptance, because otherwise you will be split apart, and they will, and a lot of Republican groups will try to split you apart. And as Republicans are huge fans of white nationalist attitudes, look at you, Tucker Carlson, and your great replacement theory attitude. And yeah, Ben Shapiro is also awful. Yeah, it's just, it is seeped in to the culture, and you see the white nationalist elements in a lot of colonial aspects. People in Africa are viewed as lesser. Black people are not, while not directly taught that they're criminals, black people are portrayed in almost all of media as criminals. Like, a lot of the time, or at the very least, that was true a lot of the time. The closest disabled group is probably ADAPT, but that's not really nationalist. I don't know much about Adapt. Let me look into. Or I forgot the name. Uh, yeah, nonviolent direct action in order to bring about disability justice. Which is good, and I mean, oh, that's why it was darker. It was just the screen extra brightening myself up. Um, so, yeah, so it seems like Adapt hasn't done too much in terms of major or majorly well-known protests. Um, but yeah, I can definitely understand the um, desire, like I said, the desire for freedom, because a lot of that's the core fundamental aspects, and people who have not had their rights fought against, or at the very least are unaware of how much their rights are fought against, is very much are seem to be well, they're not all the people who are prone because of the lack of intersectionality in various groups. There's black sorry, there's Black Lives Matter protesters who are like disability rights should be fought for second. Like, you don't have that. There was a great coming together of groups. You had LGBTQ groups, you had the Black Panther Party, and you had a bunch of disabled people. The most visible being Judy Human. Fight to get the ADA passed, and there was some success, although the ADA does not have any enforcement, so like there are still major problems, and it's very much like trans rights. It's very easy to see it as, oh, this is fine for now, but it can be stripped away at any moment. Quote unquote official Black Lives Matter is meant. I don't. There isn't. The thing about Black Lives Matter is there isn't, like, I'm not sure what counts as official, because there are they're the most visible members, and then there's a bunch of people in protest. So I don't know. I don't want to. Well, I mean, for one, obviously, I care about what's going on with a lot of the protests, and there has been, to my knowledge, there has been no actual police reform anywhere in Minneapolis, which is frustrating and upsetting. It's just, I don't know. It's very easy to be not sure what can get done. It's very, things are bad. Things are bad in Minneapolis in terms of police treatment of black people, and I think the murderer of George Floyd, was it Derek Chauvin? what was it? His sentence got reduced recently. I mentioned it in the Roma Shelter News, and I naturally do what I do whenever I stream anything, which is immediately forget all the details. I care too. I meant visible members. Yeah, I mean that might, yeah, that might be the case. I guess I'm just I try to be careful with my wording because I don't want to I don't want to put black people in a position where they're feeling like they're attacked, because the Black Lives Matter movement has done a lot to try to get real change and has had some success, but nowhere near as much success as I would like. I mean, Chauvin getting jail time, that's good, but it's minor. So yeah, Chauvin appeals his conviction for George Floyd's murder. So so and I'm not saying Chauvin appealed it by like 5 or 8 years, so he still got 20 years in prison, but it just feels like a slap in the face. It feels like what it does whenever any real change happens or any real action takes place, and that's, oh, we're gonna walk that back as soon as you don't look. I mean, it's similar to there was like a policy that was going to be in place with Minneapolis for changing police system. That didn't happen, and I don't know if it will happen. Like, there needs to be a lot more community action, a lot more coming together. And while I say that, I am not good at understanding how to do that, because I need to make more connections, whether online or in person. Online being better because there's a pandemic that's still around, or even if it's endemic, it's still hairs drop away from becoming a pandemic again. Like, we have been very bad at doing that. Um, but yeah, it's, in my mind, a lot of this is not solved with nationalism. It's solved with integration, and because even if you create a separate area, if you create a small area without discrimination, that's going to be attacked by whomever the majority is, and you'll end up with some of the similar you'll end up with problems all over again, because white nationalism, specifically white nationalism, needs to be defeated. Hands down. That needs to be eradicated from society. We can't have white nationalism in society as it is. And I don't mean like eugenics, because minds can be changed. It's people are not inherently white nationalist ever. That's not a thing. People are taught to be white nationalist, and they're taught by society. They're taught that white people did everything great in all societies, which is not how that works. A lot of the mathematics, for instance, a lot of mathematics was preserved in a lot of Middle Eastern countries. And the reason we were able to get to calculus as quickly as we did, I mean, it wasn't particularly quick, but it was as quickly as we did, is because of mathematicians in the Middle East. Because that's where a lot of the foundational aspects of calculus came from. And similarly, some of the aspects for explosives were thought up in China. You have like different countries all over the world invented things, and then that information was passed on. And that's not... It's never been a simple thing, and the fact is, people need to come together. People need to live up to the general, well, I was gonna say like the like Earth and Star Trek, but there are problems with Earth and Star Trek that they try to address in the show, but people should move towards a better society. Yes, your goal in general should be utopia, and trying to get there. Like, why would you go for second best? Like, and this might be the American coming out of me, but like, if we're talking about nationalism, America, we call ourselves the best country in the world, despite not being the best at quite a lot of things. But like, it's very we could actually try to be the best. We could, if we wanted to compete to be the best, just change what it means to be the best. We are a powerful nation. Who cares? We're already like powerful enough to take down most of the world. Possibly combined. Well, definitely any country individually, but like, we can probably take down several countries combined with our military force. So why not make it the best to improve the lives of the citizens of America? Like, why not make that the best? And we can try to do that. I mean, we have the power to move towards, if you believe America is the best, or has the capability of becoming the best, then ideally we should move towards that. And just because we haven't always succeeded doesn't mean we've never succeeded. What's his name? The James Madison? No. James Madison was president. Who am I thinking of? They're invented in America. Like he gets quoted by conservatives like he's Thomas Paine. I think that's him. So Thomas Paine wanted to I think it's Thomas. Hopefully, I'm not wrong. There was someone in America who is very much a socialist, who implanted some socialist values in the founding of the country of America that we could live up to and become a better country. But yeah, so Paine supported social welfare and a variety of genuine. I believe he was anti-slavery. Yeah. So Thomas Paine, one of the founding the people who inspired a lot of aspects of the American Revolution, was against slavery. Thomas Paine, but a lot of his attributions get put onto other people, or some people like Abraham Lincoln are viewed as far greater than they are. I mean, Abraham Lincoln wanted all black people in a different country, which is in its fundamental a white nationalist viewpoint, because that's about how prevalent it was in the 1800s. But you know, in a different vein, Thomas Paine was anti-slavery. This is 1700s. Thomas Paine was anti-slavery. He helped publish articles to get to get people to recognize the revolution and the founding of America as a country, and yet he's quoted by conservatives as if he'd agree with anything conservatives have to say. He was in the 1700s fighting for welfare. Like, it's not that these ideas are new, it's just that people communicate more. And he very much wanted to found a nation where people could have their rights. People could have rights, and people could live to some amount of with some amount of comfort. And he was hated. Thomas Paine was hated because so many people wanted things to stay as they are. Various white nationalist attitudes were still that far ingrained into society. Black people were still seen as lesser by society since the founding of the country by a lot of the people in power. But Thomas Paine fought against that, and was a genuinely good person who, if he was alive today, would be fighting for a large amount of civil rights. Like he would be agreeing with a lot of the aspects of the Black Lives Matter movement. He would be fighting for I mean, I actually don't know if he'd be fighting for disabled people. Not everyone's perfect. But he definitely would be fighting against slavery and the racist policies which have been upheld to continue a lot of aspects of segregation, which that is its own thing. Well, I mean, all based around white nationalism. White nationalism is the worst. I hate it. The and if it requires two things. It always requires two things, and these two things need to be, I think, broken down throughout society, and you can do that without directly attacking white nationalism, I think, and that might help get people out of it, in my mind, which is the idea that there's an ideal version of what it means to be human. For white nationalists, it's cis het white men, and then there's also the there is the hierarchical structure. Part of why you're awesome. Well, thank you. But it's the hierarchical structure is just a major issue. It's just there doesn't need to be a hierarchy. So, like, I like competitive games. I like League of Legends. I am still not as good as I'd like to be in League of Legends. But, like, I'll probably be playing later today. But, like, so, like, League of Legends, it's a game. It's competitive. I'm, like, rank Iron 2 or whatnot. I was briefly Iron 1. A couple seasons ago when I focused more on Morgana, I was, like, Silver 4. Silver 4 is the highest rank I've gotten on League of Legends ever. But, like, that was mostly fluke. But, So yeah, so that's a competitive game. I don't mind hierarchical structures for games, but if you're saying like you should have a hierarchical structure for living, that tends to require people like having people who you view as not deserving to live. And I have a problem with that whole attitude because who is not deserving to live can vary, and you can have people agreeing with some very cruel eugenics-based policies if you have either a hierarchical structure or the ability of an ideal version of the human, and normally those work together. But if you get rid of the ideal version of what it means to be human, you can still have a hierarchical structure. I'm not sure you can have. I don't think you can have an ideal version of what it means to be human without having a hierarchical structure. So I think that would be, in my mind, that would be most helpful to attack first. The concept of an ideal version of human, what it means to be human, because I think sometimes the hierarchical structure will just fall apart once people realize, oh wait, stuff like this is why I'm an advocate for the social model of disability being brought up first when it comes to disability stuff, because you can be like, hey, if you were exactly the same, but most people were deaf, you would be the one who's disabled, because we have so much stuff suppressing sound. Everywhere in society we have stuff suppressing sound. You know how loud and distracting society would be without the various suppressants? Like the computer right here, the thing I have one that's very quiet. I have something that's specifically designed to be quiet for the power source aspect of the computer. It's quiet, but like nobody would care. The average person wouldn't care about that, and all of a sudden, what it means to be disabled changes drastically with something like that. And it would also. That's one of the easier ones I could make a genuine argument for. But like, if needed, but like, it's kind of the social model of disability attacks the concept of there being an ideal version of what it means to be human, but doesn't inherently destroy the concept of hierarchies. That has to be done through talking about other structures. Like, you have to talk about, effectively, you have to question, why does it matter? Why does it matter to have one person? Why does it matter whether a person lives one life versus another? Why does it matter more that Elon Musk is a multi-billionaire and, you have people working... why is Elon Musk valued more than a person working a day-to-day job? Trying to survive. Why is Elon Musk valued by the majority of society higher, or viewed as someone who is expected to have higher importance by far too much of society? I mean, some of it is absolute hate or whatever, but because of the amount of power he has and because of how little he does for helping other people. Like, I feel like Bill Gates does more to help people, I feel like, than Elon Musk. And I'm not a big fan of Bill Gates either. But, like, it's... like rich people shouldn't be like gods upon among men type thing. It you don't have to have that hierarchy. That hierarchy has just been there long enough where it's hard to get rid of it. But that doesn't mean that it should be the case. You see it all. Freeware is a good example of stuff where people program things. People program apps that are free that they did because they wanted to. People do things because they want to. Um, but yeah, I believe I have talked about as much as I can think of for this. So thanks for listening to me rant. I just really needed to get that off my chest. I'll be streaming from some League from 4 to 6 p.m. Eastern. I'm pretty sure I showed that my background was singed, but I will probably be playing Warwick a bunch. I'm still trying to figure out how best to master how to play League of Legends well. So I'm learning items now. I'm trying to memorize items, builds, runes. I'm trying to get to a level of mastery with that stuff. Yeah, true. At least Gates puts time and money into helping some people. Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, so you can catch me on Twitch at 4 to 6 p.m. Eastern. 1 to 3 Pacific. And yeah, have a wonderful day, everyone. Take care of yourselves. Drink plenty of water. Do what you can, but don't overwhelm yourself. Your life matters.